Hello, 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 and welcome to Coffee and Conversation with me, Kathy Jackson. Guys, I'm a little bit early today. I usually come on at 3:15, but I got a 3:30 meeting, so I pushed it back a little bit. So for all of my regulars who are looking for me at 3:15, just watch the replay. It's just as good, I promise. So, welcome to the last episode of 2021. It's been quite the year. Thus, the title of our conversation today. If you've had a pretty tough year, and if we're honest, we've had a pretty tough couple of years. It seems like this is a long extension of 2020, right? And a lot of people have really, really had a tough time. And so I want to talk about like when you feel like you've reached rock bottom, right? Rock bottom is that dark place where you feel like you have tapped out emotionally, spiritually, financially. Like you just don't feel like you can take one more hit, right? That's rock bottom. I don't know if you've ever been there. If any of you listening, hey, say hi to me. Let me know if you're out there. I can see you, but sometimes there's a delay when you respond. But if you've ever hit rock bottom, just put me in the chat. If you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that place where you just don't know how you're going to get up tomorrow. So I hit rock bottom. I have two major times in my life when I hit rock bottom. I probably don't have time to tell you both, but I'll tell you the first time I ever hit rock bottom. My son was very young. I don't think he was even 1 year old yet. He was coming up close to 1 year old. And I was married, and my marriage was on life support. And honestly, it really was over. It was just waiting on one of us to pull the plug, right? Um, Neither one of us were working. We had no income. Um, I felt like just everything was on me, and I was afraid of what was going to happen. And it came to a point, the final straw, guys, when I had to borrow money in order to buy Pampers for my son. At that point, I just was done. I'm like, I just don't know what else to do. And I remember that it was on a Wednesday night when I was humiliated to have to borrow money in order to take care of my son. And here's the kicker: with no income, how am I ever going to pay that back? Right? It was just like I was borrowing money that I had no way to pay back. I'm not talking about I was broke and I was waiting till Friday to get paid. I'm talking about I had tapped out all of my 401k money. I didn't have a job. There was no more savings. That was gone. And there was no income. So when I tell you I had to borrow money, I'm literally like, I need money, but I don't even know how I'm going to pay it back. And anybody with integrity, that's a problem, right? And I remember it was on a Wednesday because I was very much going to church at that time. And I was going to Wednesday night Bible study. And I was truly depressed. And I'm not a person that lives in depression. But that day I was just at rock bottom, right? Crazy thing happened at church that night. We had a guest minister, a woman. I don't even remember who she was, but she did something in our church that we don't normally do. She started laying hands on people. And I am at that time, I was not a person that believed in laying on hands. I see them lay hands on people, they fall out, and I'd be like, okay. That was really how I felt about it. However, when you at rock bottom, you'll try anything. So I got in the line because I'm like, I need some help. If anybody can help me, help me. And that's the position that you find yourself in when you're at rock bottom. And I'm going to try and speed the story up because I want to get you guys to some information about rock bottom. But First of all, and our pastor, if he listening to this, I'm sorry, this is a true story though. Our pastor he's not big on laying on hands and that kind of thing. And the men were going out in the neighborhood evangelizing, and the women were all in the church. And this lady minister was laying hands. People were falling out all over. I'm in the line, and then the men come back, and my pastor, who I'd never seen lay hands on people before, got up, and because it was a big crowd, we would have been there all night, and he started helping her, laying hands on people. And in my mind, I was like, I'm not getting in his line. Even though I love my pastor, I was like, he's just not going to be shown up by this woman. I know, small thinking. But anyway, I got in her line. But let me tell you, I was standing there waiting on the line because I was really desperate in my life. And out of nowhere, my pastor, I don't know, he started working the crowd, and he came over to me and he laid hands on me. And I remember he said, God has heard your prayers, daughter. I'm tearing up because I remember it. I feel like I'm right there. And it wasn't as if my pastor said it. It was as if God had said it himself. And like everybody else, I was laid out. And I had never experienced anything like that before. And for those of you who've never experienced it, you are aware of what's going on. I was aware of what's going on. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it. But under the weight of the word, I couldn't stand. So anyway, I'm going to take a sip of coffee. I know I was going to get emotional about that story. But so the next day, I decided I had to do something about this situation that I was in. And so I had to take a few more minutes. I got to compose myself. Anywho, so I decided to do something about the situation. So a lot of people have been telling me to go to the public aid office and apply for public aid. I did not want to do it. My ego would not allow me to go to the public aid office and ask for a handout. But thank you. I got somebody in the studio helping me out. So anyway, I decided that, you know what, let's go to the public aid office. And I went to the public aid office to fill out for food stamps or whatever it is they were giving out. And the lady in there humiliated me so. She asked a lot of personal questions. How many partners have you slept with in the last few months? It was really, really humiliating. And I walked out. And I said to myself, God would not have me going out the world backwards. This is not the life that he has for me. And I vowed going back to that office ever again. And I left that office and I went to the unemployment office. And back then they had a computer where you could apply for a job. So I got on there and I started looking for jobs. And I found a job as a researcher in Itasca. I lived in Chicago. For those of you who are not in Chicago, that was about a 40-minute ride each way. And I was told by people that love me that it would be stupid for me to accept the job all the way out in Itasca. I got a baby, blah, blah, blah. But I took that job because here's what happens when you hit rock bottom. You stop listening to external voices telling you what you should do and how you should do it, because it's those external voices that had me at ground zero. By following directly and indirectly advice of people that I know and love and who know and love me, it put me in that position because that was not my path. I'm following all the rules and regulations. I tried to do everything right the way people said I should do it, and that's where I ended up. So when you get at rock bottom, you start listening to yourself, to your inner self, they say your higher spirit. For me, it's the Holy Spirit. And so I started listening to myself, and that job sounded interesting. And you know what? It ended up being the very first recruiting job that I ever accepted. And it led me to a 20+ year career in recruiting that served me and my son very well. So I went from having absolutely nothing to 6 figures in a few years. So it turns out that taking that job and ignoring all the people around me who's giving me what they consider good advice, it took me to do that and listening to my inner self, listening to my higher self, and following that path led me on the right path for me. So, is it rock bottom or is it a stepping stone? I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. All right. Is it rock bottom or is it a stepping stone? See, if you never reach rock bottom, then you don't stop and examine who you really are and the path that you should really be on. But before I go too far, I'm gonna pull up my notes because I did a little research on it. And they say when you hit rock bottom, it could be emotionally, financially, mentally, and spiritually, and or for any of those. Um, but what happens after you hit rock bottom and then you use it as a stepping stone and your life is transformed, you can look back and all of a sudden you've got immense gratitude for that situation that you went through, because it does a couple of things when you go through that. It first of all, with me, and this is what the research that I did, it says that it instills a deep trust in the universe, God, Jehovah, whoever your God is. Mine has a son named Jesus, but it instilled a deep trust in me and my God, and understood that I wasn't in this life by myself. That's the first thing that I learned. So, um, hitting rock bottom can be it can be a great venture if you learn something. Now, if you hit rock bottom and then you don't learn anything and you go back and you rinse and repeat and live the same life that you were living before you got there, you're gonna hit rock bottom again because you didn't learn that lesson. But because when you're at the bottom, you realize how far off course your life choices are, and that the choices that you have made to that point, they cannot sustain you. It's in those dark moments of despair that your anger and frustration becomes so great that you declare, now I'm reading this, that you declare never again to accept such mediocrity from yourself and others. And that's exactly what I did that day when I left that public aid office. I said, no, this is not who I am. I was so angry, so humiliated, so frustrated. And I was like, I will not be here again. And I left, and I've never been in that situation again. Thank you, Jesus. It lets you take a look at all your dysfunctional behaviors. They're revealed. And then if you never hit your lowest point, the dysfunctions continue to go unnoticed and unchecked. Um, what does that mean? So, an example, one of my dysfunctions was that I believed that I couldn't sell, that I wasn't a good salesperson, and that I didn't like sales. And you know why I believed that? Everybody in my orbit hated sales, and they hated salesmen, and they don't like sales, and sales is a tough job, and this that and as they say, this that and a third. But what I found, is while I was working, I had a side hustle as a salesperson selling insurance and financial services, and I was really very good at it. I always ended up number one in the state of Illinois. I was training people on how to do sales, and I found out, but I was living in a bubble, working a life in a job that I hated because I was told that sales was no good, and I believed it. But it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I decided to look for a job in something that I enjoy. And guess what? I enjoy sales. I still enjoy sales. I like sales and I'm good at it. But I would have never known that had I not hit rock bottom. So I was operating dysfunctionally based on who I am. I was living off of what other people experiences have been. When you hit rock bottom, you begin to question everything that you ever thought was true. What are the motives? What are their motives? See, they probably had a bad experience with sales and they put that on me, their fears, and not intentionally. Some of them probably didn't even share them with me. Just watching people in their circumstances, you develop a mindset of, I'm never going to go through that. I see what they did. I'm not going to do it. Not understanding that your path is different. You start wondering, why did you do this? How did this happen? Because right now I'm at the bottom. I have nothing. And so I need to figure out what's going on. So when you hit rock bottom, you start examining everything. And then those patterns that don't work for you let them go. Staying and finding a job close to home didn't work for me. Finding a job with good benefits that was steady didn't work for me. I had to step out and do something different. And what I did was totally different from anybody around me. And, just speaking of my life now, it's kind of the same. I'm still doing things that's totally different from people around me because I've learned that that's my path. That is who I am, guys. And I had to realize that who I thought I was all wrong. And I had to let go because I had all these grandiose ideas of how I was going to live life and what I can do and all of that. And you know what? I had to drop all of that and say, you know what? These choices that I've made have not put me in the best position. It has not put me in the best position. As a matter of fact, it left me darn near homeless in a marriage that didn't work, no income, and unable to take care of my child. Now, let me just, because I know a lot of my in-laws who I love dearly listen to this. My ex-husband is a great guy. It's not that he wasn't a great guy. We just weren't a great team. We weren't a great fit. We are great friends now. So no shade on him whatsoever. We just weren't a great fit. And at that time, we were dealing with a lot. And so young and learning who we are. But reality, we had no foundation to be successful in what we had set out to do. We just didn't have the skill set. And I'm talking about finances, I'm talking about spirituality, I'm talking about emotionals, I'm talking about everything. We didn't have the foundation. And so I had to gain some humility that and realize that life is not black and white. All the things that I thought, well, this is good, this is bad, and I was following that pattern in life, trying to do everything the right way. I really do, always do, even now. But I had some very strong opinions about what was right and what was wrong, and why people are the way they are and how they got there. And so, hitting rock bottom, it gives you some humility. It helps you to understand that everything is not black and white and that you don't know everything. I believe me, I used to think I know everything. I got a friend of mine, we always joke like, I don't know everything, but I know every other thing. Hey, Reverend Weaver, he say this is a stepping stone. Exactly. Rock bottom is the stepping stone, guys. I will preach that from the hilltop. Rock bottom is your stepping stone to a transformation, to being who God made you to be. Okay, I'm gonna get back on. I don't want to miss my notes. Let me see. Let me pull back my notes. Um, so the other thing that happens when you reach rock bottom is you begin to have empathy for others and what they're going through, and realize that you're not the judge or the juror, and to understand that uh, things people go through things for a reason, because hey, maybe they're getting to their bottom so that they can use it as a stepping stone for the transformation to become the person that they need to be. We have to stop judging about people where they are and where they are in life. Um, the other thing you have to do when you're at rock bottom, if you want to use it for a stepping stone and transition into who you're supposed to be, You have to accept full responsibility for all the outcomes of your life. See, blaming others is futile, and complaining is dumb, because complaining is never helped anybody. And making excuses is not a good look. It's not a good look. Guys, you have to own the choices in your life. Yes, I might have made them because of what I was taught and, the environment that I was in, but at the end of the day, the choice is yours. And once you understand that, then it opens up the doors for you to learn something new. See, when I realized, and I had to admit that I didn't know really every other thing like I thought I knew, um, it allowed me to become a student of life. I began to start studying self-development. Like, I didn't want to stay where I was, so I had to become something new. And in order to become something new, I had to learn something new. I had to do new things. I had to let go of the things that weren't serving me, things that I held dearly. Some of my beliefs, some of my friendships, some of my acquaintances, some of my jobs, some of I mean, you just got to let some things go. And when you let those things go, it opens you up to receive new things. As long as I believe I have the answers, I'm not going to do the research, and I'm not going to study, and I'm not going to find out more. But here's the good thing about rock bottom. If you're at rock bottom now, if 2020 and 2021 has put you at rock bottom, and if you're just looking for an excuse to be at rock bottom, the 2020 and 2021, those are good excuses, but excuses are tools of incompetence. It does nothing to help build your future. So if you're at rock bottom, the good news is you can't go any lower, right? Hopefully you're on your back so you can look up. That's when my pastor laid hands on me, I was on my back. I couldn't do nothing but look up. And it was then that I knew that God was on my side. But here's the other trick, guys. You can't wait on God. Like, I hear people, oh, I'm waiting on God. You know, in that moment that he laid hands on me, I felt him. I heard him. And all he said was, God has heard your prayers, daughter. That's all he said. But my life changed in that moment. But internally, but it didn't change externally until I went to the unemployment office. See, I got up and did something with the fact that God heard my prayer. I didn't go home and sit on the couch and eat Cheetos and say, okay, God, hit me. Make it happen. I went and I looked for a job, and I found a job that led to a career of a lifetime, right? So when you hit rock bottom, you know you're at the bottom. Now you can step up. You can use it as a stepping stone to move forward to becoming who you were supposed to be all along. Hitting rock bottom wakes you up to understanding that it's not the external things that make you happy, it's the internal. It's knowing that you're not in this world alone. It's knowing that you can trust yourself to pull yourself out of a hole. Because once you've done it once, then you can do it again. Yeah, I've had some rough times, following that, but I can't really say they were rock bottom. Now, I'm not going to tell this story today because I've probably taken up so much of your time, and I'm thankful that you stayed with me. I'll tell it another time. When I hit rock bottom in the business world, it made me open up my own business. But you tend to find a sense of your own self, who you are, your purpose, your validation, and you become comfortable with listening to yourself and not necessarily all the external voices. Yes, you still hear the external voices, and sometimes they give you great advice, but you now can evaluate it based on who you are and not just on the advice from that person. And finally, hitting rock bottom, getting to your lowest point, you become enormously grateful for all that you have from that point on. Guys, I am grateful for health, great health, the health of my family. I wake up every morning grateful for a home to live in. I happen to love my home. It ain't the final one that I want, that I plan to have, but I love my home. It's a roof over my head, a car to drive. I have a business. I have friends. I have family. I mean, I'm nice to people and people are nice to me. Guys, I get to come on here and talk to you, and sometimes you talk back. And Reverend Willis Weaver says sometimes you can't look up till you hit that lower point in life. And that's the truth. That's wisdom. A lot of times we are so busy being busy, we and trying to juggle all those balls in the air so people can't see what's going on behind the mask, that we're suffering, that we look good when we step out the door, but they don't know when we go home we crying, we not answering our phones because the bill collector is calling. you know um you don't show the fact that your marriage is in decay. Like I say, it was a life support. No, but you don't tell it. You go home, you try and cover all that up, and you just try and hide it and deal with it, especially us as black women, because we're strong black women, which that means we don't have problems. No, everybody, we take on all the problems of the world. We take care of our parents, our kids, our husbands, our spouses, our employers. I mean, we take on everything, and then we have no time for us, and we can't come out the house without looking good and showing that we got it all together when in fact we don't. But the face that we put on, you'll never know it. Guys, you have got to, and sometimes juggling all that, it just keeps you so busy that you don't have time to take a breath and realize that you're not in the right position, that you're not happy, that life is not fun, and that this is not the way you see yourself, and it's not who you are, and it's not who you want to be. But that hitting rock bottom is hard, but it's only a season. Guys, it's a stepping stone to your future. If you find yourself right now at the end of 2021 and you are feeling like, hey, Eric Bradley, Hadaria, hello, and you're feeling like you're at rock bottom, guys, I recommend that you tap into your inner self, that you take some quiet time and you speak to God, and you let him know that you at rock bottom. Like a lot of times he put you there because he can't handle you because you so busy doing stuff. Like I'm so busy, I was handling everything until I wasn't, right? And that's when I realized that I didn't have to do it on my own, that I had some help, and that he loves me and he cares for me, and that he would never leave me nor forsake me. And so I live with those principles to this day, and no, everything is not always perfect. In fact, it is never perfect, but I live in the moment. My mom says this all the time. I live in the moment. And at the moment, guys, if you just really ask yourself right now, is everything okay in this moment? And if you're able to ask yourself that, everything's okay. I ain't saying it's perfect, but right at this moment, everything is okay. So I want you guys to take that quiet moment, think about who you want to be in your future, because the decisions you make today are going to decide how you look in 2022. So decide how you want to look in 2022, what you want in terms of job, finance, relationships, I don't know, helping in the community, whatever it is that you want to do. Take a minute and write it down. I'm not going to call it a New Year's resolution, because if this is truly who you're meant to be, it's going to travel beyond 2022. But take a moment and decide what you want. And then in 2022, take some actions to start making that vision a reality. So I want to thank you guys for hanging with me this year in 2021 on Coffee and Conversation. And God willing, I will be back in 2022 and we will celebrate the new year together. So everyone be safe, take precautions. Don't go out to big parties, guys. Stay home and be thankful for a new year. Thanks. Happy New Year. And I will see you next time on Coffee and Conversation.